Hey, how y'all doing today? Take off my 4 eyes here. Leo Naranjo, candidate for governor, California 2026. It is 10 minutes to 8 p.m. California time. Hi! Me and my family are still family situation here in Georgia. Coming to you live from Morrow, Georgia. And I wanted to make a video because of a few things that have been happening on your side of the world that I'm looking and picking up on and figuring out and tossing whether or not to comment, not comment, engage, not engage, and still keep doing what I'm doing, which is trying to run for the governorship of the state, California, not Georgia. Let me start by saying this. One of the things that I'm trying to do is to sit down with the Coleman family and the Cruz family and have a discussion as a candidate over what happened to them and their families because of the stupid games the Republicans and the Democrats are playing with each other over this issue of illegal aliens and driver's licenses for 18-wheelers, aka over-the-road truck haulers. While some members of our party, whose names I will do my best to not repeat, Mr. Chad Bianco, are running around meeting with small groups of Republicans, maybe less than 20, still a good thing. But you running around meeting people is kind of funny, considering the fact that your chicken ass self won't meet with anybody else if you sniff, smell, or identify controversy. Pardon me if I get a little loose-lipped here, but time is ticking away and we have an issue in California. He's one of them. Congratulations to those people who promoted that person to get him into this race, keep him into this race, and pretty much protect him and soothe and massage the conditions which kept him from being exposed for the deviant in uniform that he is in this state, California. Steve Hilton took off after you on a debate stage. I find that highly humorous because you and Steve were buddy-buddies with closed-door meetings, secret professions, and God knows what else you two spoke of and spoke with when you were dealing with Mr. Serpa, Mr. Mercury, Mr. Tillman, and Mr. Colby. Markham, excuse me. Y'all were doing something behind those doors. Y'all were conniving something behind those doors. Interesting as it is that now falling apart? I doubt it. I still have my own personal belief of what I think you two are up to. I'll keep that under wraps for right now. Conspiracy theorists, oh my God, that would bring all kinds of people out of the woodwork. But I will say this, it's kind of interesting to see Hilton go after you, and he did it on a stage that was tagged as a debate/forum, more a forum than it was a debate. Let's be honest, people. That wasn't really a debate. That was a got you moment. That was a let's praise Mr. Mahan for being the Democrat pick, green novice that he was. They're still going with that guy, because he is now the heir apparent to the Gavin Newsom legacy of being a loser and destroying this state. That's what he's aiming for, and that's what he wants, is that legacy and to build his own. But Steve took a shot at you, Chad. Yeah. Kind of like when Leo Zaki took a shot at Steve. But that didn't turn out very well. Because when you put a weapon into somebody's hands who's probably never fired a weapon before, and they put it on semi, things don't go right. Seen a lot of those people do that in the military and basic training. Give them an AR-15, rock and roll, baby, if the drill sergeants allow you to rock and roll, and bullets are everywhere. Crazy. What did you hit? If you were lucky, nobody. And if you were unlucky, hopefully your target. But we don't know because the bullets went everywhere. Zachy found that out the hard way. Steve took a shot. And if you're really paying attention, like some of you political hacks do, Steve gave Mahan a softball pitch on a topic that Mr. Mahan deftly pirouetted off of and turned right back around to make Mr. Hilton seem little bitty. Kind of makes you wonder, did Hilton really try to throw a fastball down the strike zone at Mr. Mahan? Because it looked like a 20-mile-an-hour soft pitch in the middle, in your face, in your gut, knocked out to be a home run, which is what Mahan did with that question. You go back to the debate, screen it, scan it, relook at it, rewind it, play it forward 20 times slow, whatever it is you want to do. Folks who know exactly what the hell I'm talking about. People out there praising Mr. Hilton. Oh, he did a bang-up job. He really knocked it out of the ballpark. Yeah, I imagine. If he was an adult playing a wiffle ball baseball game, he did a great job. If he was playing against the Pee Wee League as an adult, he did a great job. That was a horrible look for Mr. Hilton. Platitudes, smoke and mirrors can only dance so far, but when you start having to show to the public what the hell you're all about, and you do bonehead stuff like you did at that debate, you start to see the rattling of the wheels with the process coming unhinged. People coming back to the apartment complex. Pardon. So here we are in the middle of a hot and heavy conversation with Mr. Hilton, who suddenly takes the first stab, the stab at Chad. Let's call that. That's kind of catchy, the stab at Chad. Mr. Hilton, the British dual citizen, and all that other good stuff, yay, takes the stab at Chad attempt to highlight Chad Bianco kneeling to a mob. Leo, that was a correction. He said BLM. No, actually, he said Black Lives Matter. But you can throw in BLM if it makes you feel better. He knelt to a mob. And Hilton said he knelt to Black Lives Matter. My wife immediately said, that's how you just lost a percentage of the African American vote. That's the second time I caught Steve Hilton kind of flirting with the racist routine. We'll forego that because some of y'all might be sensitive to racism. I was an African American culture worker with the county welfare system. What does that tell you? They gave us a test to test our mettle to get that identifier as a welfare worker, African American culture. Right here. Yes, I did earn that certificate, I guess you could call it, that extra benefit, that extra layer of protection from layoffs. How did you get that, Leo? How did you get an African-American culture worker status with the County of Sacramento Department of Human Assistance Welfare Programs? How did you do that looking like you do? With the name that I hold. If I could interview the two African-American ladies that gave me that test, you'd be shocked. If I could interview the two African-American ladies that received my answers to their questions, you'd be amazed. So we'll give you the shortened version You can look at it as biased, because it is coming from me, but it is what it is. These two young ladies, ages somewhere between late 30s, early 40s to late 40s, early 50s, administered a test to me that was only supposed to take 15 minutes. That test ended up taking an hour. That test ended up taking an hour with a pause halfway in between the session because the tape ran out and they had to replace it, soliciting the response from me of, oh shit, oh my gosh. And they both looked at each other like, that's never happened before. So they replaced the tape. That question and answer period really knocked them on their feet, off of their feet, when they asked me, name a specific incident in African American history. Hey, isn't that what this month is? Where African Americans shine, and what did they do to help the culture? And I had to think about this. I could do the typical thing and give them the Martin Luther King speech and all the other platitudes of history that most people are indoctrinated with, or I can think outside the box and give them something to me that was significantly more important based on the time frame. Which one do you think I did? And it sure as hell wasn't follow the leader. I gave them the outside of the box thought, and I told them about the Tuskegee Airmen and what they accomplished. Imagine my shock and anybody else's shock if they had been there, particularly from the African American community, when these two ladies looked at each other and looked at me to ask, who are they and what did they do? Are you serious? At the conclusion of my interview, ladies and gentlemen, both of those ladies looked at each other and admitted they had to review the questions of their testing program for African American culture workers, and they needed to modify many of their questions based upon my interaction with them and my responses. That's an impact. So bring that back around. What did Steve do? Steve made a swipe at Chad Bianco, Black Lives Matter. You knelt in front of Black Lives Matter. Look at the videos I'm now coming out with. Oh, as if that's new. People have been talking about that crap for over a year. Steve, catch up. Lo and behold, it wasn't a very devastating swipe. It was a dirty trick. It was a nasty little shot. But you got to be careful with Steve and Chad, because Steve and Chad post almost simultaneously. Steve and Chad have been running together in secret meetings that you and I know nothing about, but words leaked out whatever I found out about them. Some of the commentaries from these meetings leaked out when I found out about them. How did I get that in-depth meeting about what took place with Hilton and Bianco and Serpa, Mercury and Colby and Mr. Tillman? That's because Daniel Mercury opened up his mouth and spilled his guts. He got caught talking about what they were talking about. And none of it was pleasant. Formulated in my mind, thankfully, that's exactly why I didn't want to attend that crap, despite David Serpa's commentaries that I was never invited. I wouldn't care if you invited me or not to some cabal BS like that. Hell no. That was a bought and paid for meeting that you guys had, conspiring to figure out who was going to get what share of the Lions cost when your guy, Steve Hilton, won. That was a theory back in October of 2024. My, how that's changed to reality, because where is David Serpa today? His happy ass has dropped out, and now he's trying to run for treasurer. Isn't that amazing? From Congress to lieutenant governor to governor, now to treasurer. Mr. Serpa, why don't you look and get a job that you can focus on and stop trying to lick boots so that you can get anointed to a position. That's an attack. Hilton took his stab. BLM, you knelt to Black Lives Matter. Mr. Bianco, you have more luggage than LAX. Oh my goodness. What are we ever going to do with you, sir? Maybe you should drop out of the race now. Chad doesn't respond. And now everybody's talking about it. I think it's funny. It's funny because when you look at what Steve Hilton did, you can agree with me or not. Those of you that are still Steve Hilton pundits will never agree with anything I say about your guy. That's how locked in you are. Good, bad, or indifferent. But anyone with common sense knows exactly what that was. Chad wasn't there to defend himself. And Mr. Hilton, because you're just kind of new to America and you really don't know jack shit about this country, what you did was a bitch move. That's what you did, sir. That's kind of a cracked up character flaw that you attacked somebody who wasn't there on the territory of the very people you're bitching about that have a one-party rule concept of California, and you did that. You wouldn't do that on a Republican stage. You haven't done that on a Republican stage. It's kind of a punk-ass moment to do on a Democrat stage. But I think it's because you're pandering to the lefties. I'm one of you. Look at me. I'm a moderate Republican, I am. Henry VIII, I am. Most other philosophical people would say that was a huge stab in the back from your former buddy. Call it what you will, but we all know what it was. That was a bitch punk ass move that you did, sir. How low will you go? Well, Steve-O, no one has asked and pressed to ask if you are still a dual citizen or not. I believe, sir, that you are, because you've lied on some other things. Why wouldn't this be one of them? I'm not a British citizen. I've renounced my citizenship. But you got caught saying that you're a Hungarian immigrant. You were never born in England, is what you said at a forum with nuanced candidates, both Republican and non-party preference people. That was up in Shasta with Kim Yeater's group. Who are you trying to pander with that group? So let's put the record straight of what we do know so far. Your parents immigrated from Hungary. You and your happy ass was born in London, England. So yes, that makes you a Brit. Englander, British citizen. Fast forward with the history, yeah, you came to America, yeah, you got citizenship. Oh, Congress is talking about excluding dual citizens from holding any office in America. Suddenly you claim to have renounced your citizenship because you said so. And we're supposed to believe the BS you're spouting. You're not saying too much about the lovely missus, are you? That we hardly ever see, because you and I both know your tech lady in the winds is highly, highly involved with the Silicon Valley peeps if they're in tech, which is mega rich, which is what you could be. So you're laden with all kinds of filthy money. Everybody you know, because everybody you meet, you suddenly know, you've had friendship for them for like, oh my gosh, I've known everybody for the last 20 minutes. Socialist leaning, because one of your key benefactors, especially with the early on coup meetings that you held, the secret cabal meetings that you held, was with Mr. David Serpa, who's a professed socialist. Isn't that funny? He's socialist, you're socialist leaning. Here we go. You made a comment about black kids and the education they're getting in California. I haven't heard that phrase used since the 60s during racial times. African-American children, I agree with you there. They got a shit end of the stick. But you went down the path of black kids as if, I don't know. But I said to a few people, that seems to be the first chink in your armor. And there are many if you really take the time to bother to look. Most people aren't, because all they see is the Fox 40 slick Rick smooth head, talking head, trying to get them a lot of money for their coffers before you're thrown out of the election. Then you did this Black Lives Matter thing. Woohoo! That was another one. That's two, Steve. Methinks thou art a little racist, behind the vernacular of a proper English gentleman, pretending not to be English. Ye is. I think you might have a little hidden racism behind your veneer. Yet to be seen. There's enough time. We'll get it out of you at one point. So you stabbed old Bianco in the back, trying to take a shot at the racial implications. Now you're posting videos of old Chad on his knees. And the sheriff, the unbending sheriff, bowing to the mob. Rumor has it that that coward will not attend anything that has adversity, will not attend anything where he, Sheriff Chad Bianco, will only be allowed to discuss how to grow petunias in California. And he's great, and you need to vote for him, and that's the end of our conversation. Somebody just put up something on post that said they donated a lot of money to your campaign. You walked out on them without even shaking a hand, Chad. Could that be true, or was that a falsity that we see on Twitter? Hard to tell nowadays because we're in the AI world. Go back to a hard truth, bro. You won your race to be sheriff. 2022, I think it was. One other guy running against you, nonpartisan. You won, boldly exclaiming, you kicked butt and took names. Overwhelming majority. You and your opponent barely got 13% of the electorate vote in Riverside County. For the non-math people, that's less than 200,000 gathered votes between two candidates, with Bianco being the primary candidate of around 130, 140,000. I have to look at the math. 200,000 votes and less the two of you got in a 1.3 million person voting district. And you honestly think you're going to pull 40% of California? The Dems are going to eat you up for lunch, sir. I don't even have to be a political influencer to know what they're doing. They're lining you up like Steve Garvey for the home run schmackaroony in November. And then we got a British guy is going to go up one-on-one with El Mahan. What has Steve Hilton ever done in his life other than be a lackey to somebody else? News to me. Awful freaking funny, though, that the Republican Party in California has a standard. They got bylaws. They have requirements that you have to be 1, 2, 3, X, Y, and Z to be a Republican or consider Republican worthy, to be able to be a candidate that they can contend with. When did the Republican Party embrace pro-choice as a template, as a stalwart post? I always thought the Republican Party was pro-life. That was it. End of conversation. I used to joke about that being the death knell of any Republican candidate. They're going to hit you with the pro-life question, and you better be on your P's and Q's. Excuse me, because that could be the death of your campaign right there. Suddenly, the Republican Party has moved off of pro-life and has moved towards pro-choice. And why? Because that's what Steve Hilton is. You didn't know that. Or maybe you did and you didn't care to know that. Because all you're worried about is the money he brings in the central committees for you from Fox News, from all the access he has to the media. I asked that question about Chris Bish. Proposed it to her. When did you all of a sudden become soft on pro-life? And you started to accept pro-choice. Funny response back. I don't care as long as we get 2 Republicans in the race. Really? That's my point, people. You don't care about pro-life or pro-choice as long as we get 2 Republicans in the primary runoff. Wow. It says a lot about you, doesn't it? Where was that haughty stance when you were crucifying other candidates for other positions with your pro-life or you gotta go mentality? I think you used it as a cudgel sometimes. Appeared to be to me. But I'm not in your clique. And we've had clashes before philosophically. And this is nothing new for you, and it sure as hell ain't new for me. But you are okay with pro-choice as opposed to pro-life as long as we get 2 Republicans in the race. Christine Bish, what a stance to make. Does the rest of the CRA follow your mentality on this topic? Hell, does the rest of the Republican Party in California follow this topic? But let's move on, because it's not the only one. Only way you get to meet God is through Jesus Christ. Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, the Trinity. Ooh, I'm not trying to push religion. Jesus Christ is the man. Suddenly it's okay to not be a little religious, to not be able to mention the word Christ, to not say where we stand in a religious manner. Okay, who does that? Steve Hilton, of course. Dale, you don't know what you're talking about? Oh my gosh, this man is going to save California. He's got a plan. He has a plan. Have you read his plan? All 30 some odd pages of it? I don't think many of you have. Because if you had, you'd see the socialism aspect of it clearly embedded in the bullshit. Pardon my French. Especially in the homeless section. Way down buried inside the last 1 or 2 paragraphs. Highlighting the 15-minute city and who will control them. And it won't be you or I. You'll be lucky to live in the city. Because somebody else will control everything else. Of where you work, where you play, where you live. Worse than what they do now. Moving on. Price freezes. Who the hell ever heard of price freezes doing anything positive in California? We've had all kinds of examples through the last 50 years of people who've frozen prices for one reason or the other. But that's exactly what Steve is pushing. Oh, I'm going to bring down gasoline in California to $3 a gallon, and you should be happy for it. You must be an abject idiot, sir. I'm sitting here in Morrill, Georgia, and I just posted gas prices here at Costco, $2.47 a gallon. Diesel at a Chevron station, oh my God, $3.33 a gallon. Diesel at a Chevron station. You know how high gas is at a Chevron station in California? Gas over here at Chevron, $2.57, sir. But you want to freeze prices at $3 a gallon. Why? Rumor has it your happy ass is constantly calling President Trump, and he's okay with this? Steve, why don't you make it lower? Supposedly the conversation went. Because I don't want to, sir. I want to leave it at $3 a gallon and let those people be happy with $3 a gallon of gas. That's what I'm going to do, and that's what I'm going to do. Okay, Steve, go get them. Did that conversation really take place? Was somebody ad-libbing or was somebody full of crap? Steve Hilton wants $3 a gallon gas. Leo Naranjo is going to work towards $2.47 or lower wherever I see it posted. That's my target rate for California. You can be happy with mediocrity or you can be happy with success. Oh, I'm sorry. We don't know who you are. We never heard of you. What offices have you ever held, sir? What offices have you ever run for, sir? What experience do you have in government, sir? The same experience that Steve Hilton has, sir, ma'am. To put it in that vernacular, more than he has. Have I ever been elected to anything? Well, if you include the union elections that I've won, yeah, I can guess you can say that. Yes, I've been elected. Numerous times to multiple positions. 3 at the same time, no less. Experience with government? Oh, Steve Hilton got lots of it. No, he doesn't. Doesn't have shit for Shinolan experience in government because he's never been here in government. I've sat across from government officials. I've sat across in city councils and gone on them, railed at them, negotiated with them for contracts and benefits dealing with our members in the welfare programs. Negotiated on working conditions, negotiated on safety issues. Matter of fact, the last one that I negotiated with the county cost them $600,000. Little thing about black mold they didn't want to announce they had in their building. But I dug that up with only the tools that I had, unsophisticated that I was with what they gave me. I would have liked to have had all the goodies that the welfare department had at its disposal via the county health and safety office, but I didn't. Kind of like that old adage, when you go to war with what you have, not what you'd like to have. That's something the Marines said way back when, too, in World War II. Maybe sooner than that. Moving on. A lot of traffic here tonight, too. So we've given up Jesus. We're going to do a price freeze on gas. We're pro-choice, not pro-life. Used to be an immovable goalpost. Now it bends. I'll even tilt the camera for the effect. It bends. Our stance on pro-life has altered in the Republican Party. Now we're acceptable to pro-choice. Matter of fact, I would dare say pro-life or pro-choice doesn't even matter. Take it out of the Republican platform. Let's move on. We don't bring our wives into this because we're not trying to elect the wives, but the wives have impact to races. They sure as hell do. Ask Arnold. The girly man who got his ass handed to him by the unions, who we thought wasn't going to be bent over backwards by the unions. And what happened? He literally was. And at the last of his term, to make nice to his political buddies, he gave somebody's son caught red-handed with their hand in a cookie jar a governmental pardon. Did we forget that moment in time, ladies and gentlemen? Anything known about Mr. Hilton's wife? Not a word, not a peep. Uber lefty, uber liberal, uber wealthy, uber socialite, in the tech world. Uber had her fingers in a lot of the tech world. You don't think she still got them in there today? Heard she was one of the biggest NIMBYs when they were getting ready to put a proposed low-income housing in her area, according to the law. Oh, she fought tooth and nails to get that one removed. They bitch and whine about everybody else when they do it, but she was exception to policy. don't want to spend a lot of time with his wife because I could care less. That's his issue, not ours. Moving on. Prop 13. Oh, that's a good one. Prop 13. How many of you guys out there remember Prop 13? Because I sure as hell do. Matter of fact, I came up through the Prop 13 process. Born and raised in California, so I would know some of what that was and why it came about and why it is. It's been screwed with, it's been bent over and ostracized and criticized and polluted for some weird-ass reason. Let's put this into perspective, people, because some of y'all are pretty easygoing on math. Matter of fact, let's be honest. Some of you can't count worth of beans as expressed by the news when they say that college students entering college can't even do simple math. Wow. Entering college and you can't do high school math? That's embarrassing. How the hell did you pass? Another subject for another time. If I was a candidate that told you, here's my platform of running, all the goodies, and included in my platform is the promise. The promise. That's something I can control, so I can use that word. I promise you, I'm gonna raise your taxes every year. And what I want from you is 10% of your tax on your property. I'm gonna increase your property by 10%. You would look at me like I was an abject idiot and I would never get your vote. That's honest. That's truthful. But guess what? If I was that same candidate and never mentioned a word about jacking your taxes up 10%, it's gonna happen anyway via Prop 13's 2% every year raise. 5 years from now, you're gonna be paying 10% more in property taxes. Oh, Mr. Hilton has a plan. He does. He wants to save Prop 13. He's told people he wants to save Prop 13, but he got caught on Twitter, the X platform, telling somebody this. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring down property taxes, but in order to do that, we'll have to overturn Prop 13 and pray the Democrats don't raise taxes till we can fix the tax ratio on property tax. You want to eliminate Prop 13 and pray that the Democrats don't jack up people's property tax while you try and fix the property tax problem? Again, are you an abject idiot? Maybe you don't understand how that works in California. Maybe nobody on your staff was born during that time that can even try and explain it to you to make it make rational sense. But I will tell you this. From my experiences, no Republican candidate in their right mind would even broach the topic of overturning anything concerning Prop 13. The only portion of that conversation should have been this, as what I'm telling folks, because I'm telling folks straight up, Prop 13 happened when I was a teenager. I embraced the hell out of Prop 13. It keeps people in their homes, whether you wish to believe that or not. Would I like to see it strengthened? You're damn skippy. Would I like to see it moved around to protect people as they move around? You're damn skippy. Would I like to see the end of the every 2 year or the every year 2% increase on property tax? Why? That's like taxing stock. Stock goes up. Oh, Tesla's $900 a share today, $400 tomorrow. I don't care what Tesla stock is today, tomorrow, next week, next year. What is it when you sold is the point. We're getting taxed on the value of our homes and nothing's moving on the home except the value up and down. But it's always amazing how we seem to have more up in property values than we have down. Because when the property values crash, the county sure as hell don't scramble in their mad way of doing things and reducing people's property tax correspondingly. No, they cite crap like we're overwhelmed. We can't do it. Oh, the time's elapsed. Oh, the time's elapsed? Shit. You can backdate me if I owe you taxes. You should be able to backdate me if you owe me taxes. But we don't see that happen, do we? And this is Steve Hilton's problem. He wants to overturn Prop-13 to do something with it and pray the Democrats don't screw him in the process. That's suddenly acceptable too? What is a conservative Republican nowadays? Because we sure as hell seem to have a lack of them in California. Matter of fact, Steve Hilton's been pegged as a moderate Republican. Well, that's awful funny. Moderate Republican. Rush Limbaugh used to talk about moderate Republicans. He had another name for them. They were called rhinos. I know we got a lot of Republicans out there to know what the hell a rhino is, and how we always like to trash them, how we always like to get the hell rid of them, how they're killing us internally. But guess what? You've propped one up to be the next governor. And to add insult to injury, you've propped up his choice for lieutenant governor, who is a Democrat turned Republican recently because she saw the light. But her morals have not changed. Your morals and your values haven't changed, but you politically changed to being a Republican. What the hell, lady, does that mean, Ms. Romero? Sounds to me like you're still a Democrat at heart in a Republican dress, running with a so-called moderate Republican who's socialist leaning, hangs with socialists, running something called a golden ticket that reminds me of a golden shower. And we all know what that means, don't you? Then you picked up this guy for AG. Oh my God. You can't get any better than this at a comedy show. This looks like a rendition of the Keystone Cops. A man who was fired 10 months into his job in the feds for, quote unquote, cause? You were fired for cause? Anybody with half a brain knows you really have to work at it to be in government to get fired for cause. Oh, Leo, let's set the record straight. That was redacted. That was removed. That was returned to sender. He was allowed to retire. Yes, he was. The charge for the termination wasn't pulled. People still talk about that. Your ass got fired also because you created a hostile working environment towards women. Towards women. But that's okay suddenly, isn't it? Moving on. Now you had this gentleman trying to be the comptroller. Don't know much about him. Not going to say too much about him, but I will say this. He has to run his own race to win anything. The fact that he's locked arm and step and everything else with Steve Hilton doesn't mean jack diddly. Anybody please show me on election day what the hell is a golden ticket. I'll give you $5. More than I can say for some of you helping out my campaign for another day. Show me a ballot that says golden ticket. I check off one name, all four of them get voted in. That doesn't happen here in California. Some crap like that might happen in Europe. Smells like something like that happens in the UK and England, as a few political pundits have told me. This is what they do in England, Leo. Think it's a great idea. No, you're an abject idiot too. This ain't England. And when you start trying to compare the United States of America to England, you are a problem unto itself. The reasons why we have the problems that we have here. The shoes fit, wear it. So now we have a moderate Republican running as a Republican in California, trying to pretend he's a conservative. I haven't seen you doing too much for the trans argument, Steve, so we're not really sure where you are on that level. You make a lot of noise about it. You weren't with me in Temecula, but then again, I wasn't with you in a few places either, so that's a push. You weren't with me at Poly High School, but again, I wasn't with you in a bunch of places, so again, that's a push. Where are you on the illegal question? You're kind of silent. Oh, we're going to overturn sanctuary state status. I'm not even sure if you said that. That's as sure as hell what I'm going to do day one is overturn that nonsense. Where are you on the ICE detainer question? I'm not sure where you're at. Leans towards amnesty, but I'm not going to say that. Chad Bianco wants amnesty. He's just a coward to say it. We're only going to throw out the illegals who commit crimes. Everybody else that pays taxes, good, hardworking citizens, they can stay. Again, an abject idiot. People who are here in California that pay taxes and stay out of trouble are okay. No matter how many storm over the border, cross the border, sneak in through the border, ride in, fly in, drop in, parachute in, tunnel in, they're okay, Chad, to stay and get amnesty. Okay. There should be no question or doubt about Christine Noem's request for 33,000 ICE detainer actions against people we supposedly have in our jail. Matter of fact, what is the problem? You already know they're there. Show up, get them, and get them the hell out of the state. Problem solved. That's what I would order. In the constitutional crisis we would have at that point, Sheriff Bianco, would be when the Highway Patrol go down there to arrest you for your ass of harboring illegals. Maybe a few charges of trafficking in there while we're at it. But you must think I'm playing and I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Well, no, sir, I'm not playing and I do know what I'm talking about. You think you're all that impressive because you wear a sheriff's uniform? So what? I wore a United States military uniform. Might not have been the general or the lieutenant or the master sergeant, but I was enough to be in uniform. Well, how much money can you raise, Leo? That's the goal, people. How much money can you raise? As if Chad Bianco maybe got about $3 million raised. You think that's gonna get him into the race? He's doing bad in comparison. Steve Hilton's pulled in about 4 or 5. He's not throwing in his money. Well, Leo, Tom Steyer's dropped 40 million, rounded up. When you hear these people go off with these numbers, you have to really look at them. Can you be as dumb as what you're portraying, or is it an act? You're using a lot of harsh language, Leo. You sound a little pissed off and irritated. You sound like you're a defeatist. Excuse me, cold out here. No, I sound like I'm annoyed with people who seem to forget history. Tom Steyer's got 40 million. So what? Steve Hilton raised 5. Who cares? Chad Bianco's close behind with 3. The point of all of that, ladies and gentlemen, is to show you the difference between them and myself. They're panicking. I'm not. Tom Steyer dropped $40 million, raised $40 million. Big whoop. You think that's impressive? That's not impressive. Tom Steyer's trying to buy his way in. He's a billionaire. He can afford to put whatever he wants to put up. He's asking for donations. A billionaire asking for donations. Seriously? Now, you can say what you want about the next statement, but the fact is the fact. And this is the one I hang a lot of hats on, because not one Republican yet has been able to refute the argument. You're impressed with Tom Steyer? I'm not. You're impressed with Chad Bianco? I sure as hell am not. You're impressed with Steve Hilton, the dual citizen? I'm going to come back to that in a minute. I'm not. Because they have money? How much can you raise, Leo? You don't have anything. You're not worthy of being on the planet, much less breathing its air. All of you can KMA. if you know what that means. Roll the history books back, people. Carly Fiorina, look her up. Go to AI, ask Grok, or anything else that you use to find out information. Wikipedia, Google, you name it. Carly Fiorina put up $140 million of her own cash. No donations, her money. That's a woman to put up to play. $140 million is the template. That's the standard that woman set. I'm not a Carly Fiorina fan by a long shot. Because she used to work and was over Hewlett-Packard when I worked for them as a security officer, and I was seeing what she was doing to those employees. And let me tell you, the best thing that we could have ever done as California was not elect her silly ass. Carly Fiorina with $140 million couldn't buy her way into the office. Do you think these people on your so-called pollster list combined with all the money they've collectively raised can get a seat if that woman couldn't do it with $140 million? People who know better, who are going into fits and panic mode, that should tell you something. They really don't know what they're talking about. And if they do, why the panic? Because you sure as hell aren't a leader if that's what you're doing. And we have a lot of that happening in the state of California. Oh my God, panic! Ah, it's Tom Steyer! Oh my God, Mel Gibson! Bianco and Hilton. Oh my God, it's James Woods! Bianco and Hilton. Oh my God, it's Kamala Harris! Oh Leo, we're gonna lose, we're gonna die! It's Kamala Harris! I was the only Republican candidate wanting that woman to be in the race. I wasn't panicked by her showing up. Good. That's the easiest target we could have had as a challenger to the governor's race. Everybody else was freaking out. Oh my God, she's going to really tip the scales. It's a done deal. We're had. These are people that we expect to lead us, and at the first sign of adversity, they cower. Wow. Steve Hilton professes to be a businessman. What does he know about combat? What does he know about war? What does he know about anything dealing with leadership? Nothing. Managed a few people, that's about it. What does Steve Hilton know about government? Not a damn thing. Anything he learned was in England, not America, like you're trying to hold me to that standard. But we've waived it for him. It's okay, he doesn't know anything. He was never elected, never sat, never raised, never challenged. Now, for you ladies out there, here's a good one for you. How many women out there have ever been pregnant? How many of you or your husbands have ever taken maternity leave? Hey, hold up, Leo. You're getting ready to cross the line, buddy. You're getting ready to cross the line. You start talking about that, that means you're getting ready to infer something. Ooh, you want to piss somebody off? Get a pregnant woman up there and tell them you can't have maternity leave, and watch the fight you're going to get. I will give you this. The comment was made 10 plus years ago by none other than Steve Hilton. And what did Mr. Hilton think 10 years ago about maternity leave? Well, I think at the time he made his comments, England was having a problem with the economy that they had back then. I will concede 10 years old information. If you will concede, the thought still went from his brain to his mouth and probably was put on paper. Mr. Steve Hilton advocated in order to pick up the economy, excuse me, in order to revive the economy, in order to generate movement for the economy. One of the things he was going to propose was the elimination of maternity vacation. Are you freaking kidding me? Did he really say that, Leo? Start looking it up, folks. because the party sure as hell isn't. The party hasn't vetted nothing in either of these two candidates. All the warning signs were there and they blowed right past them. All the red flags were present. They blowed right past them. The only thing they wanted, according to Mark Wright, was people who could get money for the Central Committee's coffers. That was it. This is never about winning. This is never about taking California back for the Republican Party. This is about how the Republican Party can raise money for their campaign coffers, and that's it. You think a bonehead back in England as a policymaker, a lackey, more or less, the guy that supposedly and self-admitted writes all the determinational decisions for the government, would care one way or the other about maternity leave? His bottom line is, how do we revive the economy? Pregnant women weren't on the thought process back then. If he can be so cavalier 10 years ago, imagine what he's going to be like today. And the red flags are all over the place. A lot of you folks out there are freaking out about this so-called Prop 50 thing and voter IDs. Oh, voter IDs, we gotta have fair elections. You want fair elections. You want voter ID on the ballot. Okay, great, it's gonna be on the ballot. It's not gonna do anything for this election. Oh, they're cheating. Ms. Romero says they're cheating. The game hasn't even started and you're already calling foul? Losers do that. It's like when we showed up to a football game in the military. We knew the refs were dirty. We knew the team was dirty. But guess what? We played our asses off and we still beat them and overcame the adversity. You play harder and smarter. That's what you do. You people are out there freaking out and panicking and making excuses of why you've already lost before we've even blown the whistle to begin the game. The difference between wannabes and leaders is very apparent with the two so-called picks that we have. And for those of you out there clamoring about Mr. Swallwell, from what I understand, and I have to go back when I'm done with this video to find out if it's factual, a resident of California can be declared in a day. I started to read that and I started to laugh because it's going to make a lot of you folks out there clamoring about this so-called Swallwell can't run in the race because look moronic. How do you determine residency? The day of, just say I'm a resident. Poof, you're a resident. Simple enough. Well, wow. Fact check that one. Because everything else, if what you're saying is true and correct, why is he on the ballot? Why is he even in consideration? But he is. So that tells you right there, there's a dual system. Somebody's full of shit. Pardon my French. Or somebody's lying. The difference between panic and leaders. Panic inside of a leader gets men killed in combat. The best laid plan collapses when it touches reality and combat. We're not in combat, Leo. This is just a political thing. War. Politics is war by any other name. Clausewitz, I think, is the one attributed to that statement. There's a lot of people that panic, that pretend to be leaders and try to get you to believe that they're leaders, and they're not. Businessmen are not leaders in that sense. They're good managers of product and assets. Well, you can interchange them. Leaders, managers, same thing. You can interchange whatever you want. A rose is a rose is a rose, but if you took a dump in the middle of church, guess what? It's still a dump in the middle of church. Not using the S word because I'm trying to rein that in. Rumor has it Mr. Bianco will not debate anybody. Hell, he won't even debate the military veteran, which, by the way, Neither of two nincompoops have said anything about veterans. Why? Isn't that surprising? Can't imagine why. I have. We can put up millions of dollars for illegals, but we can't help out veterans. We can put out millions of dollars for NGOs to help homeless people with drugs and their habits and their schnapps, but we can't help out veterans. If elected governor, that's going to change. Those are going to be our first priority of people before anyone else. So, ladies and gentlemen, my bottom line is this. Why am I running for governor of California? First and foremost, for the citizens of this state, not the citizens of other nations. You think they have a plan? They have a bunch of words on paper. And I've already laid out my plans for those who chose to listen, for those who wanted to listen, for those who are even remotely curious. Look at the website. Just like they tell you, look at the website. Look at my plan online. That's what that is. There's not been any smoke and mirrors from me. There hasn't been any platitudes from me. One thing that's neat about military people is you give them a job, look at the target, and you cut them loose, and they make ish happen. And these two are going to make ish happen, but it ain't going to be the benefit for you and I. Chad Bianco has 2 more years in his contract with a minimum raise salary increase of 10% per year. That pushes him from $625 a year now to nearly $750,000 a year at the end of 2028. Why is he running for governor? What's Steve Hilton doing? He just came here and became a citizen less than 3 years ago, professes to know everything there is about California. I want you to put me in his shoes and reverse it, sending me to England. Oh, by golly, I just got here to very old England. Wonderful place. I've lived in London for 2 years. I know how to fix it. Vote me for Prime Minister and I'll fix it. And why? Because I told you so. I've got a plan. You think that would fly over there? Then why is it flying over here? Who did we beat to become the United States of America? And you want to put him in power in California? Take credit where credit is due. And the Republican Party deserves all the credit for this. You've cast aside everything that Republicans stand for with these two individuals as our top candidate picks. You want to talk about voter integrity? Start with the election process. You've massaged it for the rich. You've nurtured it for the rich. You've protected it for the rich. And you've cast everybody else aside because they are expendable and you deemed them to be unworthy. But you're desperate as hell to get those very same unworthy people to vote for you. Vote for our guy. What'll happen if they don't? You don't care. You just keep doing what you're doing, which is raising money for the party. They don't care. Chad's already made that perfectly clear. He loses, so what? He goes back to being a sheriff. Steve loses, who cares? He goes back to being rich, making appearances on Fox, starting a new TV show, how I fucked up and lost California election in 2026 with my golden shower. Did I drop an F-bomb? I'm sorry. Got carried away with the emotion of the moment, I did. That's what we're facing, folks. And I'm sitting here in Georgia watching the fiasco in California and wondering, Pat Nixon's having an event March 12th in 2026, and Chad Bianco's not showing up to a Pat Nixon event? Everybody raves about this woman, Pat Nixon, Pat Nixon, Pat Nixon. It's a Republican Federated Women's thing. Oh, Steve will be there, but not Chad. But Chad's going to go down to the convention with the GOP later on the next month. Because he's trying to get delegates to vote for him to pick him as the nominee. And my question to you so-called delegates out there And you can pass this around so everybody understands the concept. You've already given up the party standard. What else is there left to sell but your soul? And it looks like you've already done that too. Respect for the party, the leaders in the party, the so-called bosses have already effed that. What's left? Except a few people down below that you've ignored trying to fight it and claw back some level of respect. And I tell you what, at the end of this race, win, lose, or draw, mine has not diminished in the least bit. Yours is highly dubious. Got to cut this off because the family's going to be a problem. What the hell am I doing? And it's cold. And I need some munchies. For the family of the Colemans, and I offered a challenge to Mr. Marcus about this. Here's my website. Look me over, vet it out, talk to your family, your kin, everybody you know, and see if I'm the guy that you'd be willing to meet with over what happened to you and your family due to California stupidity. As a candidate, from what I'm being told to date, I'm the only one who has reached out to offer any type of explanation to what happened. Same with the Cruz family. Wife is dealing with the husband right now and their issues. That takes the forefront. Same challenge to them. Be willing to meet with them as well. God bless that young man. I hope he gets better really soon. The Coleman family has a daughter that was badly injured. The Cruz family lost theirs. We've never heard of you, Leo. No, you haven't. Haven't seen you around much. No, you haven't done that either. Because while some of the so-called rich people are pretending to be what you think that they are, and they're not, I've been doing in the background what leaders do that should be doing. I once had one of my staffers tell me in Berlin, Germany, as a matter of fact, her name was May, my assistant, second in command of my unit. Sergeant Naranjo, Sergeant Leo, Sergeant Red. What do you do in our office? We don't do anything. Sounds like some of you folks now. Who are you? We don't know who you are. You don't do anything. I said, May, you think I don't do anything as the boss of this section right here? No. You think I sit on my ass all day long and just look cute? Yes. You think that I haven't accomplished a thing? Yes. Come here. Let me show you what I do in the course of my day. And for one day, she stayed hooked onto my hip and endured everything I went through for my section and my office. And at the end of that day, her words to me was the affirmation of what I already knew. Sat back in her chair, looked at me kind of wide-eyed, and she said, Sergeant Naranjo, I want to apologize because I never want to do anything that you do or have to face in a day. Thank you for what you do, because if I'd have known that, I wouldn't have opened my mouth. There will be a lot of things in California that people will never see me do. There will be a lot of things that people will never see me accomplish. And there will be things that people aren't going to understand where I've been. But they're going to know this shit got done. And it got done for them. My former co-workers understood that very clearly when they called me in to help them with their problem as the union rep or as a safety rep. Shit got done. Wannabe leaders are over there. You're looking at one right here. My name is Leo Naranjo, the 4th candidate for governor of California of 2026. I want to wish you all a wonderful evening. Thank you for putting up with the length of this video. I hope you all take the full time to watch it. And we will talk to you more later down the road. Good night, everybody. Take care. God bless.